Mic check 1 2, it's the Y2K collector, and there's been a lot of chatter and blabber about the recent announcement of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 collection being ported to the modern consoles, being the Switch, the PlayStation 4, amongst others. And all this chatter has stirred up a lot of conversation, at least on my channel, about the value and the prices of games and the impact that these ports and these collections are going to have on the more retro version of these games, or the original copies of these games. Now, I know that I've been reading that these ports to the Switch are actually going to be the arcade version of the games, which I guess is great because I played both. I think I invested just as much time playing the arcade version of those games as I did playing the console version of those games. And if there is any significant difference that I'll be able to notice by playing the arcade version on the Switch, then that's great for me. Additionally, if these releases means that the prices for the retro versions of these games are going to go down, that's even better for someone like me who's also a collector of these games. So I think it's a win all the way around, whether you're into retro, whether you're into the Switch. I think everybody wins when we get more options and more ways to play these games. I always say that your retro collection should not be viewed as some type of investment, and that you should only be collecting the games that you like and you actually want to play, because when you do that, no matter what happens, you're going to be happy all the way around, because you'll have a collection that you enjoy and games that you actually want to play. So all of these ports and re-releases, again, are great news for the community because they spread awareness, they give this newer generation a chance to play these games, and they just breathe new life into a genre that I've always loved ever since I was a kid. With that being said, I thought of some more games that should probably be ported to the Nintendo Switch and PS4. Since we're going to be porting games, right? Since everything is on the table, I could think of at least 100 more games, thousands more games that should get ported to the Switch. But I decided to narrow it down to just 6 more titles that I think we ought to get ported to the Switch, seeing as how the Switch is going to be, or the PS4 for that matter, seeing as how everything is being re-released and I guess innovation is completely gone and no one wants to invent something new. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and first start off taking a look at Strider 2. This is an amazing installment into the Strider series. I have Strider on the Nintendo, as well as Strider on the Genesis and Strider Returns. Strider 2 was released on the PlayStation 2 a while back. This is super retro. And this game is cool because it came with not only the Strider 2, but the original Strider that you got. You got 2 discs with this game. The gameplay on this is pretty cool. It's kind of like a 2.5D side-scrolling hack and slasher. This is one where I think a lot of people like speed run this game. And it's a shorter game, but it's still a ton of fun. This one is super expensive on the PlayStation 2. This one goes for between $120 and $150. I've seen this go for. So being able to get this at a much cheaper rate would definitely be great, especially if it got ported to the Switch. And then hopefully it will help out with the price of the PlayStation version, because the PlayStation version is pretty expensive. So this is one game that I would definitely like to see get a Switch port. Hopefully it'll be on the horizon, seeing as how everything is moving to the Switch. Here's another game that isn't talked about, and I don't think we see many versions of this particular version of this game, and that is Star Gladiator. Now, I'm not sure. Someone let me know down in the comments, but there is a game on the Dreamcast called Plasma Sword, and I feel like it's like the spiritual successor to Star Gladiator, kind of like the way Project Justice was like the successor to Rival Schools. Star Gladiator features one of the more recognizable characters in Hayato. This is a character that a lot of people probably played with when they played Marvel vs. Capcom. But Hayato has, like, for lack of better terms, a lightsaber. He's a lightsaber wielding kind of like Ninja Warrior style guy. I don't know much about Hayato because I never followed the video game that he actually came from. I just remember him from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This is one of those 3D fighting games that came out during the time where 3D fighting games were really popular, during like the Street Fighter EX and like Geez, I just said one of those 3D fighting games not too long ago, but basically it's a 3D fighter. And Hayatu is there. It's a good one. It's not a game that I played a ton of. The only reason why I kept this in my collection is because I've never seen another Capcom Fighter's Edge version of this game. I've seen a lot of standard versions of Star Gladiator, but for those of you who don't know, Capcom does this with every system. Like, they'll release like a series. They did it on the PSP where they had like the Capcom Anniversary series. I think they had something like that on the PlayStation 2. And when it came to the PlayStation 1, they had a series called the Fighter's Edge series. And it was basically like the Fighter's Edge was a different version of the same fighting game. So like you had Street Fighter Alpha 3, the Fighter's Edge version. You had Darkstalkers, the Fighter's Edge version. So there were different Fighter's Edge versions. And I had the Fighter's Edge version of Star Gladiator, which is very rare. I don't see this that often. That's the main reason why I kept it on my collection. I never really set out to collect all of the games that were released for the Fighter's Edge series. But I remember back in the day, if you had one of these games, you could tear this off and you could collect Fighter's Edge points. And it was really cool. Like, this is a really cool thing that Capcom did back in the day. Some people tore it off, some people didn't. If you were a stickler and you like to keep things OEM, you probably didn't. So this was a clean copy that I kept in my collection. But Star Gladiator, I've had that in my collection for a while. Now, this next game, I've seen someone mention this on YouTube, and I've also seen it in the comments, but I'm almost positive that this is going to make its way to the Switch at some point or another. And that is Capcom versus SNK Pro. Of course, this is like the SNK version of Marvel vs. Capcom. I don't think this one ever really caught on the way Marvel vs. Capcom did. But this one is still a pretty good fighting game in its own right. If you were a fan of like the SNK fighting games like King of Fighters and things like that. I was never a fan of King of Fighters. The moves were just really, I don't know, they were just weird to me. I'm more of a standard, like, semicircle punch kind of guy, Hadouken kind of guy. I'm used to those types of moves. I could just never get into the King of Fighters. But if you are a fan of that genre, if you grew up playing a lot of those SNK fighting games, then this is definitely one that I think would be great on the Switch. I think a lot of people would enjoy this if it got there. And then, of course, if you're going to go with SNK Pro, or Capcom versus SNK Pro, you'd have to, of course, release Capcom versus SNK 2, which came out on the PS2 and the Xbox, I believe, as well as the GameCube, if I'm not mistaken. And again, just more of your SNK fighting characters along with your standard Street Fighter characters duking it out. Again, I don't think this one took off quite like MVC2 did, but they made a stab at it. There's actually another installment of this game, or in this series, and they only released it on the Wii for some reason, and that is Tatsunoko versus Capcom. And that one was just like a weird one. I don't know, that may get a re-release. I mean, it's already only on the Nintendo Switch, so maybe we'll see that come out down the line. But definitely these are ones that I'm hoping that we get a re-release on the Switch, because I think it'll be great to see those and have an easier way to play these games. These last three definitely have to make their way to the Switch for sure. And I'll start off here. Mega Man Legends. Mega Man Legends is like is it one of the first 3D kind of like open world style action adventure games, like a run and gun shooter. A very fun game, a very cool game. I like the graphics on this one. I feel like the graphics on Mega Man Legends has really aged well, better than most PS1 games. Really great weapons, diabolical bosses, and legendary gameplay. This was definitely a banger back in the day, and it still is popular to this day. I think Mega Man Legends will be a good one to get a push to the Switch for sure. And then, of course, Mega Man Legends 2. If you're gonna do like a Mega Man Legends collection, why not, right? Collections are the big thing these days. I think it would be great to do a Mega Man Legends collection. And have Mega Man Legends and Mega Man Legends 2, primarily because Mega Man Legends 2 is ridiculously expensive for no reason. Don't know why. This one is so much more expensive than the first one, but Mega Man Legends 2 is an expensive game, so I think it would be great to see these. And then the same way they throw in those extra games in these bundles, I think it would be great if they included the Mega Man X Command mission in that collection. So if you're going to do a Mega Man Legends collection, which would just be a collection of all like the 3D Mega Man games, you got to throw a Mega Man X Command mission in there, which is a really cool RPG version of Mega Man. I think this is a really great game to throw in there. I really wanted this on the GameCube. But at the time, I think it was really expensive. This game has gone up and down in price. At one point, this was like a $50 game. It's probably back down to like 25 or 30 bucks. But this is a really cool Mega Man game that I think would be great in a collection. And I think the perfect way to cap off that collection, if they do take my advice and port this collection to the Switch, would be to include the Adventures of Tron in that collection. That would be a killer collection that I know would fly off the shelves. If you had Mega Man Legends 2, Mega Man X Command Mission, and you put Adventures of Tron or the Misadventures of Tron in there, that's definitely gonna sell. I think that would be a great mix, and that would make for a great like 3D Mega Man collection. You heard it on this channel first. You heard me mention it first. So if it ever does release, you can, whenever you do eventually see that collection release on the Switch, you're gonna be like, oh man, the Y2K collector said that a few years back. But yeah, I think all of these games would be great to be tossed onto some type of collection. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think that there are plans to push these out, especially the Mega Man Legends collection? The way it rolls off the tongue, I just feel like that's gonna come out. The Mega Man Legends collection. I'd love to see something like that hit the shelves. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you think there's any merit to any of these thoughts or ideas, do you think this is something that you could see releasing on the Switch? I'm interested to know your thoughts. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.